Alrighty.
And that we will pause. Okay.
Okay, so it does look like we have two members of the public here.
You,
You
And
and Alan are not on the committee, so did you have something that you wanted to address before we get to the agenda?
no, I'm here as a Catamount Outdoor Center, Family Center, board member. As usual.
Alright.
And John's online.
Come tonight, John?
I didn't hear from her, but I don't see her, so.
Right.
probably got the time change mixed up again.
No, right, because there is a time change. Okay, well, we have the minutes. Kim is missing from the minutes from last,
Kim is missing. Okay.
instead of member absent here. I think it just should say that Kim Coleman was missing last time,
Oh, it should say that she was absent.
because it says there's members
Yeah.
absent, none.
Gotcha.
Kim.
Okay. She was actually absent, not that she's absent from the list of people who were there. Gotcha. This is
Correct.
important.
Wait, 4 doesn't seem like there's enough.
Gotcha.
I move to approve the minutes as amended.
Second,
Okay.
Did you get the?
look, I didn't know.
Oh,
Okay.
I do see that my last name is misspelled. It's ALL.
Gotcha.
I had to correct Jensen like 3 times.
Get there.
Wrong.
We will make that correction.
Did you have a chance to see them? Did you?
I haven't seen them yet.
Okay,
Should I just get these off the website?
usually they're projected.
I can do
Yeah.
that. They are linked in the agenda, so try to do the and upload it to the
Oh, I see.
page. On the meeting date that they occurred, but then I'll link them in the agenda for the meeting where they'll be discussed, so. Let me see if I can share this up.
Hmm.
I did notice that given a very busy interim person for our committee, they're much shorter than they are when we have.
Yes, right, the format has changed.
Yes.
And I have that.
Lots of different styles for taking minutes,
Yeah.
although I tend to advise folks on our staff to be brief. Who's there? What was the business?
Yeah, we couldn't get Andrew there.
What were the votes?
Andrew is like, then
was-
Hans
Then
said
Hans
this.
said.
He was, Andrew was so conscientious about it. He was like, no, he's like, I have to. I was like, all right, well,
Okay,
Robert Schultz.
don't drive yourself crazy, so.
Okay, did we vote for it or?
okay,
I
right.
didn't know.
All right, so all are in favor of approving the minutes as
Amended.
amended?
Uh,
All right.
Aye.
Great.
Any notes? No. I did have some questions from there that I wanted to put onto the agenda item,
Okay.
just that I feel like the brush hogging. Well, we're putting that on something to talk about today.
Yeah,
And then when the Outdoor Family Center gives the update, just to maybe include the concept. An update on the meetings that you had with the public.
regarding the building.
Yeah,
And, I'll just get back to your agenda real quick. If I can. That's fine.
yeah, the first thing on the agenda is the deer fencing.
We wanna talk about, oh, I went too far back, that's why. Yeah, we wanted to talk about the forestry project, deer fencing. Update folks on that, and then I did have. Some conversation just today with Carl Runge, I assume is from Nest Watch, but. So the group that looks at the grassland bird habitat about the haying contract, which is up front.
Who's he bobbling? He's
Bobbling.
birds.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll mention just what's going on with that and a recommendation to the town to change the open dates when haying can happen. Based on some observations out there, but we can do that under other business.
So the deer fencing, Hans, you wanted that,
Yeah, I think we've mentioned this before, just observed that the fence is seeming to be compromised and if the study means to be continued, it should be fixed or if they're done with it on the, so just sort of, who's the owner and what should we do with it? Somebody fix it or
Thank you.
decommission. I did try to call Ethan actually, and then his voicemail had the New Foresters phone number. I did call him and left a voicemail, I think Wednesday, no, Tuesday. Couple days ago. I left my number, he didn't call back.
So Terry Marin was watching our agenda go up and
Yeah.
she did email and say it is part of past forestry project. Brandon, the new county forester. She had reached out to him about a year ago about it. She hadn't heard back from him. So I will reach out to Brandon
Third time's a charm.
and see if we can find out if anybody's still monitoring that project.
Yeah.
And if not,
Come take your fence.
can we take the fence out basically? Or should it be put back up because somebody's actually monitoring those? I assume the flagged trees in the photo are, seedlings
I think so.
or
I
seedling
didn't know.
locations that they were trying to, see some pink flags back there. Or if that's just the boundary of the area, the plot that they were trying to do the deer exclusion on, so.
yeah, cause
John,
that's a
are you
different
talking
spot
or
than the
muted?
flags.
This is different from the little plastic flags that Tony D'Amato was talking about. This
Yeah,
is,
this is a
this is a
separate
different project.
location.
So I will see if I can get in touch with Brandon.
Okay.
And make that part of our handoff to our new conservation planner as well. And we do know, of course, that Brandon is stretched across more
Yeah.
territory than Ethan was, and it may just take a little bit to get him oriented around it. So take a look into that.
The pink flagging is in the fence itself.
Yeah, okay. So it's just the boundary.
Yes, it's meant to make it visible, so hopefully somebody wouldn't run into it if they were bushwhacking fast through the forest.
And we would also like to invite Brandon, when you reach out to him,
Yes,
to
I
a
will do
meeting.
that.
Who is Brandon?
He's the new Chittenden County forester.
Oh, he is, okay.
So a lot of the management plan was written with Ethan Tapper, the previous forester, so we would like to get a connection going with.
What's his
current
last name?
Brandon Benedict.
Yes.
And when we get him, if you do connect with him, like that's one question, but then I think the other question is. For the with a 10-year forestry plan, there's. I think we're required to keep a plan, so at least on his radar,
Yeah,
like I don't know when that one expires, it probably expires in 2030, I don't know.
I think that.
Like
might
he
be
would
right.
need to write a new one for us, or I don't know, somebody would write a new one. I
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah, and
And then put it on, I wanna put it on his shoulders. Be like, is there anything else in the current one for 10 years that should be done? I mean,
Yeah.
I think, cause we don't, as a committee, we can read it and we're like, oh, somebody thought all this stuff should be done. But like, which of it should get prioritized and moved forward, and I don't know that we have that expertise to.
No, I do know that Ethan's sort of parting advice was, if you don't do anything else, do the invasive species
That's right.
removal. And so that's another thing I'll be working with our new planner on, is talking about invasives removal across the community forest as well as other town properties that will fall under his purview. So we can start to think about sort of collectively, how are we dealing with invasive species? But, I would certainly be recommending that we prioritize doing removal in places where there's been an intentional project that in part depends on it. We obviously, we could do nothing but invasives removal in Williston, and this would probably be the number one that I'd recommend we put some effort to, or if we were gonna, contract some of them and do volunteer stays or, weed warrior type stuff, which is a program elsewhere, we would probably prioritize this one for like, if we gotta pay somebody to get it done, we still would do that, so, work on that in our transition.
Which we have on the future, like this, on the future agenda item is,
Mhm.
bottom is the invasive plan by Bob Himes.
Yes,
Or it doesn't have to necessarily be Bob. But but our committee
Mhm.
wants to have an invasive plan.
right,
I thought there was money for it that was approved, we were gonna pay him to do it. Yeah.
I
Right.
believe that's correct, so.
But it was hard to hear back from him.
Oh,
I think that Andrew had reached out a few times.
I see.
Who is this guy? Bob, who, Bob?
Bob
we put-
Himes, I know the name, I don't recall his position.
We allocated money to like have a professional invasive plan done, cause Ethan said he wasn't the one to do that.
Okay.
And then it was just always wondering, did it happen, did we spend the money? When do we get our invasive treatment plan?
Oh,
I'm not sure why he's the person, if it was from Ethan or if it was from our previous conservation commission member, Terry or somebody else who knew.
I think Ethan knew the guy and recommended him.
Okay,
I know we approved 3,000 with the select board, not that long ago.
Oh, right.
In the fall,
okay.
for our committee.
If it was approved in the fall, then we're talking about FY 26 money.
5 months, I think. It was money that was already in
Oh, it
the
was already
fund,
in, okay.
and for some reason, the select board had to allow us to spend it. So we did.
Gotcha, so it wasn't part of the budget, it wasn't part of the budget, it was,
In the budget, there's another 15,
okay,
that's capital,
right, the capital,
budget.
okay. Well, I will see what we can do there,
The capital budget isn't on the fiscal calendar, so.
right. Right,
Chapin had also said that he had done a mapping exercise as part of the Williston Master Naturalist program, so. He said he wanted to be involved. in this in some
And he
way.
also, at the last meeting, didn't Chapin offer to do some of the invasive work?
yeah,
But,
yeah,
which is
so
a nice offer, Chapin, thank you. We also want to get the plan going.
right, so I've been meeting with Chapin, I actually met with him today about, the desire to, sort of elevate some of those volunteer opportunities for invasive
Yeah.
removal, and Chapin also maintains a herbicide applicator license, for dealing with that, so, we'll be working on that as well, but, wanna get it all coordinated under a plan.
I've also done the herbicide. I haven't done the training, but
Mhm.
I've done that up at Catamount as well.
Yeah, I think as
with
long as there's
Ethan and
the-
some of the-
right.
Yeah,
as long as there's one person there who's had the training and, volunteers.
that's something I could do in the future.
Yep. Great.
Needed.
Terry,
That's right.
Laura Meyer,
Laura Meyer.
yeah, like they annually would have an invasive day plan, now that neither of them are on the committee. We would wanna reach out maybe to them or somebody that wants to
Somebody
lead
who's
an
on the
invasive
committee.
day.
wants to-
Oh, wait, did Drew just say that?
I mean,
I could do something like that.
couldn't, I mean, theoretically, or this is, I'm going off tangent already,
Yeah.
but couldn't we apply, we have some money, like, if you needed to get the training. Then could we put that on the committees to hire, to train somebody
Yeah.
potentially?
Definitely, and, I'll be turning this over to our new conservation planner, but I'll be coordinating with him, and one of the things to start thinking about even over the summer. Is what are the budget needs coming up in FY 27? Because by the end of the summer, we're talking about, what are we gonna give to the town manager for our proposed budget? And how is that gonna roll through the select board, in the winter? So be thinking about things like that, like, we keep a training budget in the planning and zoning budget. It's minimally covering some staff training and a little bit of sending various committee members to things when we can, but it's been fairly lean the last few years. And, if we know we have something, we know what it costs, I can put the amount in and I can put it in the narrative and have that conversation.
Maybe keep bringing that up if we forget to.
Mhm.
That'd be, cause it has been it feels like it's been a block before when we wanted to do trainings, or not trainings, volunteer work.
Yeah.
to remove the invasive, not having somebody who. could
Usually,
Do it.
usually invasive removal is done in the fall, right? 'Cause that's when the herbicide's most effective.
Yeah.
So we should like really make a plan to have a plan for, yeah, something happen in September, October, whenever the right time is. It seems like we've been talking about it a lot.
Okay.
What's the plan?
For the fall.
There's a lot of honeysuckle on my property.
Hmm.
That's it. I feel like that's the easier one.
Yeah, it's really easy to
You
cut.
just yank them out.
But you feel, well, like, I've got huge ones, but it's like, you feel like a hero, you take a saw and you've got this huge heavy saw, like,
whoa,
it
that
comes
big?
right through, oh yeah.
I have those as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a nightmare.
They're a nightmare, but when you get rid of them, when you pull them out of the forest, they're like 20 foot long.
It's amazing. You can just see through the woods again.
Yeah.
The buckthorn.
The buckthorn.
Buckthorn is hard, that's
hard.
hard.
And then there's the poison parsnip, if we wanna like talk about all the
Talk about those
invasive,
good ones.
those need to be done in the,
Yeah.
like this summer. So deer fencing, we are going to talk to Brandon Benedict about that.
Yeah, let's see if we can get a response on that. I mean, the great thing is, once I have a new planner, I can say, hey, call this guy once every day until he calls you back.
He's available, he's met with the
No.
outdoor family center, and then he can
Yeah.
also, he'll get there. All right, well, we're ahead. Should we move to the family center?
It's amazing that deer fencing didn't take 20 minutes.
But
How high is the fence?
High enough
Yeah,
for
let's keep
deer
going,
to
we got
not-
10 more minutes of fence to talk about.
Because deer can jump.
Well, I don't think-
6 feet.
I don't think there's not like a pot of gold
Or even a garden.
inside the fence or a barrel of apples if they're interested.
Yeah.
So I think it's,
Keeps it from browsing in, but
yeah,
they're not, it's not like somebody's garden where they're like
yeah.
really motivated.
I don't think they would have reason to jump it.
But it's kind of just like all
Yeah.
down now, doesn't really do much at this point.
Yeah. Okay. Thumbs up?
My turn?
Yep.
Yep,
Okay. So to start with, we'd like to do a little winter recap. We did have a pretty good winter. It really was only 2 months though, and boy, it's gone now.
Yeah, it sure is.
And it's happy spring today. We are we're gonna have to wait to see what happens with the weather, but we're currently closed for trails on both sides of the road. Things are drying out in some places, but we have another week next week of cooler weather, and we will inform everybody as soon as we can open up again. To give a little window into how good this winter was, last year we had 22 grooming days. This year we had 51.
nice.
And the 51 were all, right in those 2 months of January and February for the most part, and with no meltdowns, it really did make a big difference for us. Last year we were chasing little bits of snow here and there, and often losing everything in between. So even those numbers aren't exactly indicative of what happened. We had the most lessons ever. We had strong clinics and program participation. The Catamount Trail Association, their Cubs program again was hosted by us, and we also picked up the Mansfield Nordic Club, Bill Coakley League cross country ski group. That's a kids group that used to have access to the range out in Jericho, and lost that, and then came to us. So we accommodated them this winter. We also had a sledding party with the Wilson Central School, and lots of other activity with school groups and other partners. Camp sales, we started in the beginning of February and then opened it up to the public in the beginning of March, and we're already 2/3 full. All of our 6 to 7 year old camps are sold out, and there's a waiting list for all of them. The hub is staffed midweek by our year-round staff, including me. Basically, we're just trying to keep everybody off the trails at this point and direct them to Governor Chittenden Road. And we're going to take a few weekends off in the hub to save some staff time. We're trying to get 3 UVM interns for this coming summer, or spring and summer too. I got to go and chat with their outdoor recreation program class one day, and it led to a connection with the head of the department, and he sent us 3 folks that are interested at this point. We're excited to continue our mission of education, and excited to work more closely again with UVM. We completed our 3 public meetings and closed our survey for the building. We had about 80 people who responded, and I put in the chat just a few minutes ago representation of the public survey results. If folks want to take a look at that, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has. We, as we expected, didn't have huge attendance at the public meetings, but we had new people each time, and they were folks that really cared about the center and the community, and had great input for our planning process. And let's see. And then I had a couple things to just bring up and keep the committee aware of, and also to ask maybe for a little update on these from Matt, if there are any. We are still thinking about the Vigneault easement, which would protect the Cabin Run, Pops Drop, and Gravy Train Trail access from Governor Chittenden Road into the power line, and they have said yes, but we want to make sure that that's continuing to progress. It's important access for the forest, and we'd like to keep that process moving. We're also working with, trying to work with our local rep, Senator Keisha Ram Himsdale, to figure out whether the Act 250 fees that we are going to incur for the trails and for the building might be partly waived, as this is town property. And we're trying to work out the details on this. There's 2 sides to the story, and we're not sure which one we are going to end up on. But just to keep that in your awareness. And then the final one is the building ownership and how that will look going forward with the town. And I think that's all for now.
I read that you have, or that the library is going to be getting passes for the Outdoor Family Center.
We offer that to basically all the local libraries in the area that they have 1 or 2 passes that folks can use for free for any activity. So
Well, I think that's awesome. I feel like we should, if there's a way to share that information with the public so they can get a chance to try out the forest for free, would be great.
Yeah, the library has a
That's
lot
new.
of those things.
Yeah.
We would get like passes to, like, I forget, Shelburne Museum, or like I forget a bunch of
Like Echo, I think, maybe.
Right, but
Yeah.
but this one is, but
Yeah.
we haven't had the Outdoor Family Center
Right.
before, so that's.
Might be something to publicize coming up at Green Up Day. So I can use this moment to make my pitch for participating in Green Up Day. I don't know if folks are aware, last couple of years, we've turned it into this sort of town fair down on the green, off the side of the library. We get a tent, we do some tabling and outreach. So, planning department will be there with mostly stuff about the upcoming town plan. try to encourage people to keep participating in that, but, we partnered significantly with the library on that. I know they've come and done story hour and, other stuff there, so a little sort of like a, did you know, the library has passes to Catamount. Springtime, it might be a good time to think about that, would be good.
Maybe a reminder, of course, that the only thing you need a pass for is cycling or skiing, like you can, you know. Just in case people, you know, wonder, like, yeah, you can always go there and walk for free. Might be a good time to remind them that the forest is always open for everybody to wander.
Mm.
And if,
Except when it's closed.
Except when, yeah, of course, when it's muddy,
Except when it's
yeah.
not.
yeah.
It's
if-
really
if
only
you
this
have
time of
doc-
year.
If
Go
you
ahead.
have any, paper handout or poster or anything that you just want us to have on hand and you want to drop some off or we get some out there, we can have that available at that event, to let people know. So
Okay.
happy to do that, but
We're participating in the Williston Recreation Day too, so we'll be
Great.
sure to talk about there.
Oh, cool.
great.
And that's in May, later in May.
Cause you're on that committee.
I represented the Parks and Rec committee back then.
So now that the public meetings are over, what are the next steps for you?
We're moving into the design phase, and as soon as we have anything that is, you know, that we feel good about sharing, we will. You know, the back and forth stuff. You guys don't need to see all the chopping of the vegetables. So but you know, we want feedback on this and need to be, you know, clear on costs and all these things. So as soon as we have something that really makes sense to review, we're going to share it with everybody.
Is there a timeline or anything like that?
I would guess in the next month or so we'll have stuff to look at, because this whole process of having a finalized plan from our partners is meant to end by midsummer, and the nearest deadline is actually the end of May. So we expect things very soon.
And maybe you know all this, so forgive me, but this was a VORAC grant that funded this project that's being done through this consulting group. So they have the whole timeline laid out and they're kind of guiding us through it. And at the end of that is the not quite the blueprints, but like the building and how much roughly it would cost. And then, you know, the next phase would be, okay, well, now we need to pick one of these options, start fundraising, and then have somebody make blueprints and, you know, so this is one step. But the time you asked about timeline, it's kind of like going through the process of this
Right.
consulting group.
Okay.
So you won't get blueprints at the end in the summer?
Not something you can hand to somebody to just go start hammer and nailing and,
Mm.
yeah, it'll be, you know, detailed drawings of the facility, but not like how to build it.
I think the way I understand it is it's gonna be building plans, but not construction plans. I'm not sure what the subtlety is, but
Sufficient to get a cost estimate, I assume,
yeah.
but not, right, you hand to a
Placement of
builder,
lights,
they
light
know where the
switches.
2x4s go.
Right.
Also, important again, the Act 250 permit. So this is part of that. We have to be able to show exactly what we're doing, and they don't need construction details, but they do need the basic details of
Mhm.
Great. I think we're at the hang and mowing update from
Hang
Carl
and
Rudge.
mowing.
Unless you want to do the forest events, town forest events.
Why don't we just do the events real quick? I just updated the event schedule. Terry Marin had a couple of birding events to note. So I gotta get back into the website, back into the front end. trying to add resources to the committee page, so the survey John just mentioned, I just popped it onto the main committee page. It's not in the right place format wise, but it's there. I'm gonna try to work with our new planner to do more of that for all of you as well. But back to the Catamount page. And then I'll share the event schedule up. These are all May events, and with any luck, SharePoint actually picked them up. Yes, it did. Great. And I may need to get a little more detail from.
And they might be from last year too, the detail might already be there. 'Cause
Yeah,
they're
they're the same. They're the same events that are very similar to what was done last year. So talking about, I actually didn't know right off the bat what NBNC stood for.
North Branch Nature Center.
Ah, thank you. I knew somebody would know. So that's the first proposed one on May 16th, then Green Mountain Audubon. I did know what GMAS would be, on May 24th, and then the library event on the 31st. So, I think if we go back up in 24, I can actually just copy down the anticipated, number of people and event
Right, they're all
descriptions
like
there.
less than 20.
The.
Are any of those charged events, or are they all free?
I believe they are all free, but I can double check.
I think for any event, it starts at 7 AM.
I don't think that they were charged either.
I don't think so. But I'll double check and follow up.
Birds get up early, and you gotta be out there.
Right, but you are, because you were planning on going out for a walk in the forest sometimes.
Not at 7 AM,
Not
no.
No later walk.
That's
For the
probably
late
beyond
birds.
here, Gina actually puts her boots on and goes. Okay,
All right,
And normally we would have had real-time approval of these. Do we approve them? I mean, it's from like a scheduling conflict, that was the point,
yeah, I think the
Where-
question would be, are there for John any
yeah.
issues with these?
What are the dates again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
16, 24, 31.
Of May?
Yeah, of May, one's a Friday. And the other two are Saturdays.
Oh, I'm not in edit mode.
I mean, I think we have some overlap, but it's not so much overlap that it's gonna stop either of the events. We have beginner clinics and things like that during those weekends.
Yeah,
And
so
later in the morning usually too, especially if they're all
we
starting.
usually like put a date on like when, I don't know, what is in this document?
So,
CCI meeting discussed, and then
yeah,
the outcome, you'll update that one.
so I'll update, as long as everybody's okay with these, I'll update that we talked about them on March 20th. Said okay, and then I'll double check the COI. I've been in communication with Terry about that already.
so are we really, are you on the work tab instead of the events tab?
I am on. Unfortunately, Zoom is in my way of telling you what tab I'm on,
I'll just, no, do.
which makes it worse. I am on the work tab, sorry. I'll move those over to events. But I think events. Yeah, I can move them over to events. But so I'll move those over. My apologies, I got them in the wrong tab. I'll move them over while we.
Their own planner.
Doing it too fast right before the meeting.
Never have the boss do spreadsheet.
No.
This is, you're gonna get into the minutia of like all of our events. like what's allowed, what's not allowed, what works, what doesn't work. Like last year, I forget what it was, some running club was announcing that they were gonna have like a running series on Tuesday night, and they, had initially come to Catamount, and I don't know, outside group, you need a COI, you need this, you need that,
Right.
is there a fee, and, so in that case, say that this running group now comes to the town and they put their thing on the list here and say, hey, can I go do that? Now all of a sudden, does a running group, now the running group can come through the town and like schedule events through the town? I'm just trying to think like, how's the Green Mountain Audubon Society scheduling an event through the town to be there different than the running club? If the running club came to us,
Mhm.
would we have approved that too? Oh, the running club's gonna have, a weekly run on Wednesday nights or something. And we approve that and then they're in. So like in terms of Terry before was on the committee. And it was sort of like a committee activity that was coming. Now these are outside groups planning to visit, coming through the town. Terry's not on the committee anymore, so I'm a little bit not sure, like, in the eventuality
Mhm.
that some other groups end up coming to the town and do we approve them? Like, how is that different than Terry having these outside groups planning to come, going
Right.
through the town scheduling process? Are these town-sponsored events? Does the town COI cover these activities?
So I've talked to our assistant to the town manager a little bit about it. The first part is if there's an outside group going straight to, they are not a town event, they are an outside group that wants to do something at Catamount.
Yeah.
They need to have the COI, they need to go through this committee. There's a question of size, of whether an event permit is required, so we're talking about the smaller ones here. And they do need to have that certificate of insurance. If they are a town event,
Yeah,
like
Then the
we have
town's
some of these like
doing
through the library. Typically, that outside group that's coming through the town still has to show the town a certificate of insurance. So there's a little bit of this that needs to be written down and codified. That I've been working with Aaron on, but my understanding is there's really. Unless the town itself is conducting the event.
Mhm.
So if the library says Williston Library is going out to Catamount and we are running, town staff are running the event. That we are insured, we know we're insured.
Uh-huh.
But if it's, Matt's Pretty Good Trail Running Club. Advertising through the Wilson Library or partnered with the Wilson Library, I would need to show the town that certificate of insurance that names the town as additional insured. So that's my understanding right now, reserve the right to correct that as we iron it out. Then the other part is related to size and whether it fits under the carve out for events that happen at Catamount in terms of number of people. So just keeping that in mind, if something's really big, we get into a different world.
But it sounds like one of the other questions is just about hosting events, not necessarily, even if they have a certificate of insurance. It's not about the certificate of insurance. It
It's about
seems
the
like you have a
nature-
question about the event itself.
It's about the nature of events that are going on this calendar that the town approves
Right.
that'll happen at Catamount. It's sort of like, go ask mom, go ask dad. Like if somebody comes to Outdoor Family Center and says, hey, we wanna do this here. And I don't know, in what situation the answer is no. But then it's like, okay, well, fine, I'll just go ask the town and I'll get it approved through this process. So I think there's like two channels where, the same type of event could get approved, which is maybe workable. But, if the Green Mountain Audubon Society had come to the Outdoor Family Center, then like that would have been another avenue to be like, oh yeah, you can do that event here. So it occurs to me that these type of activities they felt different when Terry was on the committee. They were like Williston sponsored events. I'm just trying to go through these, because we'll end up somewhere farther down the road with wondering about this, so it's a
Yeah.
little bit out there. I hesitated to bring it up Cause we're endlessly churning on like. What kind of activities are allowed and when?
Go back to
If
weddings.
I have a birthday party, I'll come and. I'll ask the town if I can-
Don't do it till we get the new guy.
No. Yeah, when Andrew and I started talking about, carrying cakes out to picnic tables.
Yes.
When did it become an event? What I think is important, Hans, that you bring up though, is there's really no such thing as a quasi-town event. There are things that are town events, and there are things that are coming from the outside but might come through this committee. They don't.
Yeah,
Coming through this committee for permission or getting on the schedule doesn't make it a town event, and we do need to be, clear about that. And that some of that is about, literally a town department goes out there, we are insured, we don't have to provide ourselves with our own certificate of insurance, and that is a big distinction, but I guess it's possible that somebody could come to the town and say, I want to do something at the community forest that was not in line with the management plan, or was not in line with the terms of some of the easements on the property. And, this committee would ask the staff person, hey, can we even say yes to this? And the answer might be, no, you can't, and here's why. So we've never run into that. But I suppose that if somebody had something that was maybe kind of questionable, they might come to this committee and ask that.
and I think this list serves its purpose too, just to have everybody seeing it, and I don't think we're gonna wake up one day and see that. A Spartan race, the town approved a Spartan race in Catamount, and they're like, wait, what?
But I guess maybe one of the distinctions is, for a given group, do they go to the town or do they go to the nonprofit to sort of process it? And I'm just kind of
that's
brainstorming.
These
part of
groups too, though, it's almost like the committee went to, I talked with Terry, so the committee went to Terry to have these events happen, so it's not. We haven't had a group yet come to say.
But this is
when
part of
we-
that whole management, that this is
Yeah,
the
governance
governance
things.
document
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we need to work through.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think answering the questions about sort of the procedures and the thresholds, and this is where I tell you, like, Simon tried to put together a flow chart at one point, or Andrew did. We got a little ways on it, and we just need some focus on it, so.
Mhm.
and that was something that Kim Coleman said she had some experience and expertise with,
Yeah.
and she would help create that
And I
governance.
think the new conservation person once on board. Would help quite a bit.
I feel like under our agenda items, we have the future agenda items that we just have more and more bullets to add to. Because one of them is like the governance memo that we
Yeah.
should be returning to. And maybe the what is an event question.
And I'm kind of saying this as I'm making up my head, but like for events that don't involve family center staff or anything like that, like these bird things, like to me, it seems like it's better to have those go through the town. It has nothing to do with the
Yeah.
nonprofit.
Yeah.
And frankly, the nonprofit doesn't want to have to
Chase.
manage
COIs.
that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
we'll let the town deal with the COIs and stuff, because it's really not
Right,
part of what
and
we're.
and the town can make that distinction whether or not they're comfortable without a COI or they need a COI.
Yeah.
That's when it's
Right.
great, because that's the
Yeah.
town's decision, so.
As
That might
opposed-
be better, like that might be a net improvement.
Yeah, like as opposed to somebody, running club says. We wanna hold a, whatever, like a race, we want some support staff from the nonprofit center, right, that's clearly like a nonprofit center. Function, but these, like, the nonprofit center, other than needing to know about it, just to put on the radar.
And I would probably say that if it's an event that is very closely aligned with what the outdoor family center does,
Yeah.
then that would be something that we wouldn't just say, yeah, you can have a bike race,
Right.
so-
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, one of the nonprofit center's mission is, education and such, so the birding thing, we totally support that, but it's not really like we need to do anything for it.
Mhm.
So it seems like that's a good thing to put on the town's plate.
It is, I think, important to, at least chat with Amanda and make sure that everything is,
Right.
going through the right, channels, and that we've, the numbers are, agreeing with the flow chart of what types of stuff we have to request, and that everybody has the right COIs. I mean, this is sort of what we're set up to do, and I don't know the town wants to, also do it.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say that this is sort of nonprofit management stuff, but I'm gonna say, no, we wanna put some of that stuff on the town, John. We can talk about that
Well,
later.
we also have to put this on our calendar too, you know, that's part of this.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying the nonprofit should be out of the loop on it, but you know, there's maybe some portion that the town should do when it doesn't pertain to the nonprofit. But I think what you said, it's really all part of that governance thing that we need to have
Yeah.
around.
perfect.
All right. Now can we talk about hanging and mowing?
Let's talk about hanging and mowing.
Maybe brush hogging too?
Yeah, well, the first, let me do haying, because I just know more about it. From what Carl Runge sent me today. So the first part is to just know that we have a farmer, Mr. DeGraff, has a lease with the town to hay. I think it's fields A, B, and C, if I have it correctly. And the time frame of the haying is limited in order to support grassland bird habitat. Carl's group has been doing some, I think, just observation of when nesting is happening out there. And is recommending that if the lease is renewed, that some of the dates be changed. So I just got this today. I didn't get it up on the website, but the recommended substantial change is about field C. I could not tell you which one that is. I'm sure we have a map of it. The current lease says first cut before May 20th and subsequent cut not until after August 1. The recommended change is mowing not before July 24th. So leaving it unmowed in the spring and early summer. And then a cut between July 24th and August 15th.
What?
Pretty tight window there.
Yeah.
And then cut it as much as you want after August 15th.
Wait, that makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think a farmer would have problems with that because usually by then, there's no hay to be cut.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to follow up with Carl about why this recommendation is being made and get back to the group with more information. The lease does not expire until May, so there's a little bit of time to make a recommendation on this.
Can you repeat the current dates for not before?
Yeah, so currently it's first cut must occur before May 20th. So it's an early spring first cut, no cutting from then until August 1st. So it's just the bulk of the summer, but then you can mow after August 1st. The change that Carl is proposing is no cut until July 24th. And basically there's this window, first cut between July 24th and August 15th, so two and a half weeks. And then just as much as you, like I said, as much as you want after August 15th, although I agree, there's probably not a whole lot of hay to cut at that point. So it's really, it's a proposal to really significantly, basically, I think would limit the cutting of that field to one time, cutting and fertilization,
Because that's where the bubblings nest.
I assume.
And that's just field C.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if there's another species, and I don't know, John, if you have access to a map real quick of what field C is. Otherwise, I just recommend we table this until I can follow up with Carl and find out what the reasoning is behind it and then get it to you with a map.
I mean, the only thing I can think of as being field C is the one that's sort of away from Goose Hill and towards the houses towards on Giovanna Lane. But I don't know for certain, and we don't need to.
Okay.
Don't need to speculate.
And Carl is the head of the bobbling project, or I
Thanks.
don't know who Carl is.
Carl Runge served on the Conservation Commission in Williston for like 25 years or more, I think, and has a strong interest in this. He was professor, I believe.
Did he work on any of the previous
I don't know if he was on,
management plans?
may have been on the committee.
Right, I
So-
don't see his name on this list, but
Yeah, so the management plan just discusses grasslands, and one of the bullets is continue to monitor the fields to assess usage by bobolinks and other grassland birds to inform future management. So there's a restricted date. This talks about only the field, southeast of the skating pond, avoiding that from May 15th to August 15th. And
Is it really called the skating pond?
that's what they called it in the management plan, yeah. It's a
All
skating,
right.
it's a skating pond.
And,
I don't know what that is.
Whoa, we have a winner too.
I feel like the bubbling project has been involved there for many years.
Yes.
Since the nineties.
Oh, yeah.
So he's been. He's an.
Yep.
Involved.
So is this lease for haying, is this a, does this have any financial implications, or is this just that you can hay it as long as you mow it?
Yeah. I think that's,
Is that it?
that was my
In
recollection.
consideration of $10 and more and other good and valuable consideration.
Well, we may not be able to afford $10 for the bobolink, so.
For kernels of corn, yeah, it's a nominal fee.
Right, except that if the farmer said, okay, well, then I'm only gonna lease for fields A and B, I'm not gonna mow it for nothing, or hay it for
Right.
nothing, so then we'd end up having to brush hog it.
Then we'd have to brush hog it. So that's the other part of the management plan, says if haying ever ceases, brush hog those fields once a year to keep them as meadows. So it's good for us to have somebody haying them because it reduces our costs.
So the 3 weeks could be. Hope, we have to hope that they'll take those 3 weeks. I see, okay. But we also have a meeting in just 2 weeks or 3 weeks, so
Yeah.
we will know the
Yeah, you'll be
answers,
back,
potentially.
hopefully we would get you back on your normal schedule, so April 10th?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 weeks. I'm reading the calendar.
So also under other business, I had sent a note, because we got the money to do the trail improvements, which I thought were the bridges that, the bridges that we had some indication that the town had said that they would pay for.
Yeah,
So I was just wondering, is that gonna happen this summer? Is there other work that needs to happen first?
We need permits. So wetlands, stormwater, Act 250, which we are in process of getting now. We're setting, I should have actually chatted a little bit about this. We are setting up reviews with A&R staff for the springtime for the plan. So that's a key step in this process. But without doing that, we can't do the work. And we did apply for the Recreation Trails Program grant for Elbow and the trailhead area and Balsams, but not Three Rivers, because it was more than what RTP could possibly fund in season. So we had to pare that back for this year. But if there's some way that we can figure out a way to extend that and get the permits, then we will certainly, as soon as we are thinking about that, we'll go back.
Well, we, and under other business, potentially, we could discuss a little bit about the governance memos that maybe we read, or just a quick feedback, or the management plan, if you read that too and had questions or comments. But I think before you got here, Jean, we were talking a little bit about maybe saving that for when we have a new conservation planner to really get into that.
Like most of the documents that Kim sent, I mean, they're fascinating, but they're more about relationships between stakeholders. There was only one that really felt to me like a this is what it looks like, so. You can
Which
see.
one was that? And
I
I'll
wish
do
I can
that.
remember now.
I don't
I'll
think
go
I
back and look.
received anything from Kim, so
Uh,
if somebody could forward that to me perhaps. that would be-
Yeah, I can do.
Or should I
Yeah.
foresee that?
I think it was in, from the February 13th meeting.
Should be, yeah, I can take a look. I think it's linked on the agenda, but
Okay.
let me double check.
And there was a lot of suggestions for. Well, building trust and potentially having
Right.
a facilitator be involved in conversations for.
Yeah, and we'll see what the skill set of our new planner is and stuff, but I do think that. Um. Building a document that's a governance document might be good to have a facilitator help us with that, rather than just trying to do it around the table, because I could see it kind of going off the rails and damaging relationships, which we don't want to do.
So if folks are interested, it's those first two links at the very bottom under adjournment, and this is in the February meeting, just because that's when we brought them up.
Okay.
So, but this is one of the things I want to work with the new planner on, is just creating a resource library that's easier to find than popping into agenda dates, whether it ends up on the front page or wherever it works, so that people can just go and refer to all these various documents more easily, because it does help with understanding. And I did, in our little bit of our private or our prior conversation about governance, one thing that I picked up on, and I think has been a challenge throughout this process, because there's been a number of moving parts, is just clarity for everybody. So clarity about what is what kind of event, what things should come through the town, how should we all communicate about both events and volunteer work that's happening on the forest. What are the critical pieces of information that everybody needs to know about those things? How far ahead do we need to know about it? And can we basically just build a system that, as long as we all follow the system, everything works out pretty darn well. And
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I also do think that the whole governance decision-making is a missing piece. I think there's like, this is what the forest and the needs of the forest, and this is the outdoor family center, and how that's gonna work, and then we sort of have this is what we think our charges as a committee, but it's like, it doesn't really just. There are certainly lots of questions where if we said, well, who gets to make that decision, we would not be able to say, this is where it says who makes the decision. That's what I thought was sort of the lacuna.
No, I think that's great. And, that is part of it. It's Andrew or Simon and I would sit down and have these conversations, and we'd open my binder that I have with me tonight with the 9 different legal
Exactly,
documents.
yeah.
And go, okay,
Which one?
how do we apply
which
this to
one?
the
Yeah.
thing that's in front of us today?
Right,
And
right.
it is very, very challenging.
I mean, if we started a list of things that we think are the missing pieces, and then we realized, oh, that's not so missing, it's in the document, that would be great, but I don't think we will. I think there's plenty of, or not plenty, there are some key things that would be good to have an understanding between all the stakeholders of who has the right to make the decision or is going to make the decision.
I also think the work this committee could do on that would be really valuable, whether or when we start amending or wanting to amend any of these documents. So if we talk about, there's a desire for a longer term in the license agreement for the family center because they're thinking about investing in a building. Does this group kind of become the local experts on, well, what does that license agreement say and how does it fit? And while we're in there tinkering with it, are there some other things that could use, some clarity or some shifting? We know we're gonna be updating management plans over time. So understanding how the management plan fits, or if there's that question of what's the evolution of forestry projects look like out at Catamount? Do we understand, what our responsibilities are in terms of forestry, based on some of the funding that was received to conserve the land? So that's a thing where I think this group can really become kind of the experts on it. And writing that governance document, part of it is sort of that user's manual of like, well, what is this land governed by, other than the committee?
Right.
How do those things all work together? And then what's our range of sort of decision-making within all of that? So, yeah, with Catamount University. We'll all learn a lot.
Committee university.
Community University.
at work, it's just nonstop. We can use AI for that. So I'll just say it, like, we could upload these documents to Copilot ChatGPT and like ask it these questions, like based on these 3 documents, who makes the decision for whatever? And it would like read these documents for us. I don't know, create,
Starting point, yeah.
create for us a governance structure based off of these 3.
Can't be like,
I
that's
mean,
how
I'm
you
not
just
even-
put me out of a job. Isn't that her like whole? I don't know. Based on what I was reading, it seemed like that's her.
Well, that's
area of
fine, I mean, like,
expertise.
Copilot is an assistant.
There we
It
go.
doesn't-
Yeah.
It doesn't put anybody out of a job, it makes her be able to do that 20 times more efficient.
Excellent.
I mean, that's what AI is doing for us. But I might try that, hook these
point.
Yeah.
documents into AI and say, create a governance structure, and then you just interact with it. Add to the governance structure, a clear path for approval of activities and events.
Yeah.
Cool. We just keep iterating on it and it just keeps revising and revising.
Nice,
See what we get.
then we can meet quarterly instead of monthly.
Well, I think too, you can,
Interest of efficiency.
Yeah. you can then also use that so that when someone approaches the town, probably through the staff and says, oh, I wanna do something out there. I saw you have this property, I'd like to bring a tour group out there for whatever reason. What do I need to do? Becomes very easy to say, like we do with our permitting regime, like you come in and say, I wanna build a such and such, we know which permit track to put you on, because we have to. And that, just adding clarity and efficiency to all of that would be super useful, for that part of our work here as well. So.
All right. Great. I think anything else? We might be done early today.
Yeah.
That's great.
What are we doing next month, though?
So, next,
Agenda.
Let's do this agenda planning, because it seems like it sneaks up on us sometimes.
yeah. You have. And we've kind of a bunch of bullets.
We have the new
in,
person. The new
Upcoming.
person. The new planner will be in.
New planner will be here, so that'll be, quite a bit of it, just.
We're gonna teach them how to do short minutes, not verbatim minutes.
With the Catamount board, I'm not making this up, we now have AI doing our minutes.
Really?
Oh,
Yep.
I mean, I'm not actually using it right now, we're contracting someone to help us with minutes, but, we use it to summarize stuff all the time, and it gets you at least 75% of the way there, pretty quickly. So, one thing we could also do with the agenda that we're doing with some of our other boards is we actually put a draft agenda out in SharePoint that folks have access to, so you can see what we're working on in between meetings. And then you can reach out to staff individually, say, oh, can you put this on? Can you put that on? So I like doing more interactive agenda development that way, or people can go through the chair and say, oh, I want to talk about this, and hey, Matt, can you put that on? But there's a bunch of these future agenda items that are really like just kind of like almost like standing items. That we maybe just need to run through updates on every time, like, are we good with the haying lease? Have we talked to the brush hogging guy to get him out there? You're always going through events, you're always going through an update from the family center. I think the governance document project, maybe we want to break down into some subject areas. And take that apart, but anything pressing for next month?
I think we need to get Brandon Benedict whenever we can get him.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So that will just be the agenda when he can come. But I guess the other question, and I think, I like the idea of sort of starting actual work on it, like an invasive day or
Yeah.
invasive plan,
Yeah.
so. Like, but if we knew like, well, let's see if we can, you know,
Do it, say it.
no, it just seems like, so we have a meeting and then we talk about all the things we're gonna do in the future, but like the invasive plan and the governance memo seem like the two things that we just need a way to move forward on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like we've been kind of the
Yeah.
last few, I don't know, there's been a lot of change, a lot of rollover.
Oh, yeah,
Trying to figure out
I'm
where-
really not critiquing it, it's just like, I'd like to, it's just a suggestion to. I have the same problem on my other board too, so sometimes you just need to, what are we gonna work on?
So right, getting the invasive plan from Bob Hines would be great too.
So
How much can we do?
well. Is this what we wanna do, is reach out to this person that we don't know?
No, I have it on my list to reach out, to Bob. Also, you know, we wanted to start scheduling Tony D'Amato to come in at least quarterly and just update on the forestry project.
I think Carl Runge is also chomping at the bit to come and talk to
Yes.
us, so why don't we have
I'd like
invite
to
him
have
in
Carl,
on,
have Carl come in
That'd
next
be
time.
perfect.
Yeah, that would be
Talk
great.
about the
Tied
lease.
to haying topic.
right,
Okay,
and
yeah.
then he's a volunteer that's involved in the forest.
Yeah.
So,
So maybe like just roughly, if we have him come in next week and then we try to do. This guy on invasives, this
May.
next month, you know,
Mhm.
And hopefully have Brandon Benedict
Yep.
in April or May.
right. And then, yeah, you have all these standing things that are gonna always happen, but.
Yep.
You know, and if we go wild and crazy, we can talk about deer fencing again.
Well, if we get Brandon, it seems like maybe we can,
We will not put
That's
that on
true.
the agenda.
maybe we can resolve that, as part of, yeah.
Right, it'd be interesting when we talk, when you do reach out to him, what his thoughts are on his role with the management plan. and
Yeah.
Rewriting it.
Well, and I think particularly with forestry work, you know, another thing that Ethan Tapper said before he left is, you know, he said, yeah, you know, if you want this to have the value it's supposed to have, manage the invasives. There is this idea of like sort of a phase 2 forestry project, and one of the things he said was, but there's no forestry police that are gonna come get you if you don't jump right into that forestry project right away.
Mm.
So I think another guiding conversation from this committee that doesn't have to happen right away, and it's not just about a system of governance, but a more sort of how do we implement the management plan conversations. Hey, we got a lot of stuff going on, we're figuring out how to all work together, we've got this really unique resource we're managing. Do we want to give it a rest on the forestry project for a little while we iron all of that out?
Hmm.
Or is the fact that Brandon is covering more territory now mean we want to get on his list, but it might be a couple of years before he's ready to come out and work with the town on sort of forestry 2.0 out there. So that would be something I would throw out, that would be a good conversation with him,
Mhm.
and then thinking about the work plan of this group.
So if he's coming on April or May, you will
I
send that
will.
up to him.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Cool.
Still light out.
You'll light up.
Right. I hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'm making, okay.
6:39 PM.
And
Great, thank you.
clear.
Thanks, John.
Thank you all.
It was, we have a